I work with a non-profit that mentors young lawyers to engage with social justice issues called Amka Africa Justice Initiative. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Elizabeth Yegon. I work with the Ministry of Agriculture and Livestock Development in the State Department for Agriculture. I head the gender unit.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon once again. Good afternoon. Yeah, my name is Charity Munyori. I'm the Senior Manager, Women and Youth Banking, Equity Bank, and happy to be here and enjoying the discussion and happy to be part of it. Thank you.
Yeah, so you've heard who they are. They are quite experienced in this field, and they bring a wealth of experience in gender and youth issues. And as it was said in the morning, over 40% of the total population rely on agriculture. That is for economy, and over 70% of these are in the rural areas. And we go further into that data, the bigger proportion of this population is mainly women and youth. And these are the people who provide the day-to-day labor for agriculture, but how are they benefiting? So with the challenges that they have, that is access to land, capital, training, modern agriculture technologies, this is what we want to discuss. How can we make it possible for women and youth who are often marginalized in access to key agricultural resources such as land, credit facilities, technology, and capacities, so that they can be able to also benefit economically. And we know when they are benefiting economically, then they are also contributing to the GDP, and they are also in them, we are reducing the number of the poverty levels in the country, and at the same time, we are reducing the big question of unemployment in the country. So how can we focus on women and youth, who are a big population of who is working in the agriculture sector, to actually improve the economy of our good republic? So I'll start with you, Milka. When we look at land issues, yeah, access to land, how does it contribute to poor, what can I say, to limited advantage when it comes to women and youth? And maybe when we look at the policies and legal reforms in the country, how favorable are they to the women and the youth?
Okay, thank you very much. I would start by saying that the bigger problem, or the challenge that we have a lot of time when it comes to laws and policies, and this relates to the competitiveness of the aspect of the summit, is that there's a lot of disconnect between the end user of the law and the law itself. Most of the time, and when I listen to most of these discussions, like in this summit, they are very good quality discussions about many things, how to do things, how to get perfect in the science and everything where. But when it comes to the policy and the law, we then have a big disconnect. And then that reduces competitiveness, because the law will come in and apply. And because we are not engaging in the law adequately, informing and shaping the law, then it reduces our competitiveness, brings challenges in our competitiveness. Now, going straight to the question, is that as a country, because laws come from our social structures and our culture, laws some laws have hindered, especially women and the youth, to access resources, mostly land, because they are informed by culture. So for instance, we have succession laws, law of succession, that limits access to land for a widow, for someone who loses a husband. Well, that property was matrimonial property when they were married. So if they divorced, the lady would get maybe a percentage depending on how the courts will share out the matrimonial property, and they could be able to access that as their own share. But in case of death, the law turns around and says to this lady, this is land that you can access and use, but you cannot sell. You cannot really apply yourself maximum on this particular resource. So that also reduces. So because of our cultural structures and legal structures in one way or another, so you find that as much as we are saying women are more involved in agriculture, they don't own those resources. And when you don't have full access to this resource, maybe you are leasing. And that means also the landowner may take it at any point if you're not having an effective lease because you don't know how to get there. So that becomes a big problem. So I think even as we discuss this, if we are to mainstream gender, bring more women in on the table to make decisions, bring more youth to be there, we need to ask ourselves, do they have access to resources to be able to do effective agriculture? Thank you.
Oh, yeah? Have we looked at it that way? Actually, we have. And I would want to recruit you as ambassadors of these discussions once we leave here. And looking at KENAF, youth can contribute in agriculture, especially in agribusiness when it comes to ICT. How well are we utilizing this space, or what can we do better? Because you know the youth mostly do not want to be involved in the dirt, yeah? But this is a space where we can make good use of them. So how can we make better use of this space?
I'll start by saying that for young people, they are already at an advantage stage. When you talk about digital, who are further digitally excluded, because statistics say about 58% of men use digital tools, compared to the counterpart of women that are 34%. So you'll find that women who are doing the work, right, in production are digitally excluded. And that makes them not really to be able to contribute to the digital economy, the digital global economy. And we cannot talk about, when we talk about digital inclusion is a prerequisite to financial inclusion, right? But you find that there is a segment of women who are producing, but at the same time they are being left. It's really important as for public sector and even the government, the private sector as well, to come up with initiatives really that can really empower women to be using digital tools so that they are not excluded.
Thank you very much for bringing a powerful voice that how we can use the resource that is the youth and ICT. I'm looking at my colleague from Equity Bank. The finance sector, it's always been the big dragon that women and youth fear. We fear accessing loans because we believe we will come and get auctioned. We say they ask for a lot of documents. What really can we do about this? We know that the banks have products for this, but what is this that is keeping off women and youth from accessing finance from the banking sector or from the formal sector? Because you know we have so much money in the informal sector, the mobile apps, the illegal ones that auction you any other day. But what is this resource that you have in the bank, in the mainstream banking sector that is regulated that we can make good use of as women and youths?
Okay, thank you very much. You've said a lot about women. She's not said there's no money for women. She said women fear. Yeah, which I agree with you. Women fear not only the money, even coming to the bank. So as very, very focused on women and youth. And with the youth, they are easy to get because we continue engaging on our social media platforms and they're able to express themselves and they get solutions. But for the women, we are very intentional and we are now going down to where the women are. And the women are in groups They are comfortable talking when they're in groups. They don't fear money when they're in groups. So we're encouraging the women to remain within the groups. And when we get to the groups, we know the fear they have. I can say in my 22 years experience, I've not been on the forefront attaching a woman on any assets because they are very good payers. But what they fear, I still don't know. But we are getting there, engaging them within their social spaces. That is very important because women are comfortable being in the groups. And from the groups, we are now educating them on financial matters money, to just understand what is money so that they stop fearing money, because these credit facilities are all money. But again, depending...
and in that way, the farmers are able to get markets for their produce. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And I know who you gave us some challenges that are in the policy space. Maybe what are the low-hanging fruits that we have?
That's a very important question. It's a good question. We have a lot of low-hanging fruits that we can take advantage, and I would like to encourage everyone to again engage with the law. Do everything in the system. These laws will still come to affect how you're going to be competitive in terms of your agricultural and food processes. There are several bills which are actually pending public participation right now in Parliament. How are we engaging with these bills? For instance, there is cooperatives bill that is out for public participation. My fellow panelist, Charity has mentioned that women like to work in group, and I would mention that because the gender conversation, even men, it works much better when you work in group. In cooperatives, people have a lot of these things and people are coming together to work in cooperatives. But are they engaging with this bill? How is it going to affect the operations of these cooperatives? How is it going to affect the different aspects of their ability to learn this cooperative, the different aspect of being able to even use this vehicle to be able to improve their farming? So the law is not bad, but we need to engage and ask ourselves. For instance, all these laws are establishing boards. What is the composition of these boards, for instance? Because if we are not, as farmers, engaging and people who are in the private sector and working in this area, we are not engaging in these bills. And then the bill that does not even have space for you, maybe, I'll have space that is not adequately going to be able to bring adequate representation on the table. So how are your issues going to be addressed when you're not on the table? So that is very, very important. So the law is not bad, but if we are not engaging with it, the makers of the law will make it the way they think best, and then you'll be affected by this law. So part of these laws is Agricultural Professional Registration and Licensing Bill. It's a low-hanging fruit. The Horticultural Crops Authority Bill, cooperative bills, and the Livestock Protection and Sustainability Bill. All these are in Parliament. So it will be good to really engage with that. So finally, a casual perusal of this bill, just looking them through, they lack youth mainstreaming. Say gender, because gender it's already taken care of by the Constitution. That says that not any other body.
Yourselves in the law. And I think the academia is here and they're the ones who are shaping these young people. Let's also shape them to follow the political and policy space so that they are not being left. And policy space so that they are not being left behind. Because when we leave them behind, getting them back to the front is...
With it comes, but I think we can also take like 3, 4, then sharp ones, and then sharp answers would be okay.
Okay. So I have a room for 4 questions.
Thank you. In the morning I had introduced myself, but in the interest of others who may have come late, my name is Tom Wanambisi. I'm a colonel, retired. I'm a coffee farmer from Bungoma. I think let me come straight on to contribution in terms of the operations. The role of the government is what you have articulated, ma'am, but there's one that I think is not taken care of very well: security. Security of all that we do. In coffee, for example, the act is very clear that the government will take the responsibility of making sure that there is adequate security cover for business in coffee. And there are many other things that go along with that, is that farmers are left vulnerable. Okay, like those of us who come from border points like Bungoma, much of our coffee goes across into Uganda. And you'll find government agencies who are supposed to protect are the ones who are participating in the illegal business. That is one area, and is not really covered very well. Number two is we are fully focused on making sure that we mainstream the youth. But there is so much that is left out, to the extent that at county level where agriculture has devolved, very little is being done by the county governments to mainstream the youth, especially those who are in universities, colleges, and those are the ones that we are saying they're the focal point. We needed to do a little more there. I don't know, the government. Ma'am, you talked about the other two, legislation, good, regulations, good, and the other things, participation in, probably. But when it comes also on the participation, public participation, cosmetics, it's just talked. But when time comes to invite the youth, the women, very little is done. And if they ever came to those meetings, they are stolen by politicians. So there is little time for the youth and women to participate and be able to be heard. And that is the formation point. We need to do something about that. Thank you.
Thank you. I think my question goes to Wahu, and we are talking about sustainability. And while the women provide the labor on the farm, when we are talking about adoption of sustainability practices, be it regenerative, a lot of it is being done by the women. But then you find that when it is time, for example, to pay out the carbon credits, it is the men who get the money. So how are we ensuring that even as we pursue sustainability interventions, my apologies. My name is Lydia. Just like I had said to Wahu, I'm interested in hearing what are we doing to ensure that as we adopt sustainability practices, we are not marginalizing the women, because they are the ones maybe to go on and do the regenerative practices, the composting, the sustainable agriculture. But for example, when now we are doing the carbon credits, which is a diversification of the incomes, the money goes to the man. So how are we ensuring that by doing this, we are not marginalizing the women and compromising the adoption of sustainability, especially at the smallholder farmer level? Thank you.
Okay, I'm Paul Wabomba from Bungoma, and I've heard you are talking about policies and involvement of the youth. I know we had the youth strategy, the National Youth Strategy in Agribusiness, which was supposed to run from 2018 to 2022. And right now we also have county youth strategies in agribusiness. How are those strategies, maybe how is the follow-up normally done? Because you find that we may have very good strategies, but when you look at implementation, nothing is on the ground. Thank you.
Yes, so I'm Moses Nyanduga, a student at Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. So I'm very happy to be given this chance to represent the views of our fellow youth and Africans in general. So I have the following to put across. Number one, for the failure of agriculture sector in Kenya, I blame the Kenyan government. In this context, we, the students of agriculture, we are being told that upon graduation, we shall go to Israel and Japan to work there. So when are you guys planning to make Africa great by utilizing the knowledge we have to be employed as extension officers in this country? Because we are also tired to see the children, women, and men dying in the street just because of hunger, while the best of our minds in this country are being ferried abroad and overseas to utilize their labor there. Two, I'll comment on the issue of the role that we, the youth, should play in ensuring the activation and improvement in the sector of agriculture. When you move around these research centers, to me, of my age, with very many innovations, some of them only need even less than 3 million just to activate these innovations. But again, the government of Kenya will not support them. In this country, as I speak to you now, we know even some people, very few of them, who once even developed the various drugs to treat some of the zoonotic diseases, HIV, AIDS, and cancer. But until an organization or an agency from the America or the Europe shall come in, then these views shall die. We have seen innovations, especially in the areas of precision agriculture, the remote sensing, but the Kenyan government has failed to improve these innovations. Then the last question is, when is the government of Kenya planning to improve the agriculture sector if our agriculture sector is being controlled by outsiders? When you move around this country, we have very many people who even develop the biofertilizers. We have very many people with even brains to perform plant breeding. But our agriculture sector, from production to marketing, is being controlled by some of the companies whose only appetite is all about profit. When you move around, majority of the farmers even prefer seeds from Syngenta and Monsanto's, but they won't go for Kenya Seed Company. Our sugar industry is dying just because we import sugar from other countries, while we have the Nyanza Sugar Belt, Transmara, and even Kilifi. So when shall Africa grow if our economy, especially the agriculture sector, is being controlled by other countries? So, and the very, very last question is, we, especially the youth, not only in Kenya but in Africa, we usually give respect to one, the Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Whatever we are talking about here, about streamlining the agricultural system, gender equality in agriculture, infrastructure and transformation, when you can just listen keenly to the speech Kwame Nkrumah delivered on 24th May 1963 during the formation of Organization of African Union, he was talking about all these problems we have today. And he gave us a very precise formula and remedy to all these problems. The same problems, we see them on a daily basis. Africa will start things we never finish. This government will start projects. After that, when the new government come in, it signs deals with some of the countries. We just import and export things. We produce even coffee in this country, but we won't process this here. Our coffee and cocoa is being processed in Switzerland. So, what are you guys planning to do? Thank you very much.
I think I could say better, yeah? The young people have said, and what I like about them is they don't mind about being politically correct. They say it as it is, which is very good. So, Madam Elizabeth, what is the government doing about this?
Okay, thank you very much for those questions. I will start with the first question on the issue of security. And I acknowledge we have an issue of theft of farm produce. In fact, when maize, the prices shot up, people are stealing even maize. There's a season when farmers lost a lot of maize. And my people usually say, if you see that we have started stealing pumpkins from the farm, then it means things are really thick. So it is an issue we acknowledge that actually security of farm produce is a big issue. We usually have a lot of theft from the farms, whether it's even potatoes. When the potatoes price are high, somebody comes and harvests at night, kwa sababu even if they harvest one debe or a bag, they have a good market just out there. So it's a big issue which we acknowledge, but I'd also want to appreciate that government, every department of government has a mandate. So I cannot speak so much on the issue of security because it is the mandate of another department. But what I would just say is that the government does its best, but at the same time, security is a collective responsibility of all of us as Kenyans. Because as communities, that's where we had the Nyumba Kumi. As communities, we can come together and see how we can be able to address that, even as the government does all that it's able to do to be able to provide security. And then on the issue of mainstreaming youth at the county level, I would also want to say that as responsible citizens, it's also good, as Kevina was encouraging us, to be able to engage our government, even at the grassroots level. And I believe that was the spirit of devolution. It was bringing government closer to the people, so that instead of you having to travel to Nairobi, you know those days when people used to travel to Nairobi or to Nakuru, the provincial headquarters? Now the government is very close to you. You have your local leaders. We have are they called county administrators? Yeah, we have the county administrators, we have the MCAs, we have the governor, and all that is within reach. Apart from that, even the national government is still also represented right to the ground, through the chief, through the DCCs. So it's good to engage our government, yeah? Because sometimes somebody asks you, you work for this ministry? Yes, I need this, I need this. Then I tell them, you have an extension officer at the ward level. Have you looked for that officer? They're like, no, he's not there. I'm like, just go and find out. Where there's either a ward administrator or a chief, there's an extension officer there. And where it is thin, at least you'll get them at the sub-county level. So I'd encourage us as citizens, let's engage our government right from the grassroots level to be able to get the services that we deserve. And then I'd also want to encourage the youth who are here. We are saying they say it as it is. We are your parents. We encourage you to speak up. And also to have collective action. Down there at the grassroots, it is very hard for you to be listened if you're just one person. But if you come together in groups, whether they are youth groups, women groups, yeah, we are able to reach you as extension, and you're also able to use that to advocate for your issues. And then somebody asked about the youth in agribusiness strategy. Yes, it is under review currently, but one key question you asked, what is the outcome of that policy? And I'd like to inform all of us that that policy was actually implemented very well. And I don't know how many of us are aware of the agripreneurs who are being recruited in every county. Are we aware? Yeah, so that is an outcome of that policy, where we are actually able to take on board the youth agripreneurs to be able to offer services to our communities. Apart from that, we also have another program called Enable Youth, and it is supporting youth through business incubation, where the youth are taken up, they are taken through training, and their business ideas are incubated. Then from there, they are able to go out there and implement them. And every now and again, we've been putting proposals out there for the youth to apply, then they can be able to be part of that program. So apart from that, also in the State Department for Agriculture, we have a whole youth unit, which is concerned with issues youth, whether they are youth in school, youth out of school, and also the young people who are in school, the 4K club the 4K Club. So we are really engaging the youth because we know the future of this country is in the hands of the youth. And we want the youth to really engage in the agriculture space. As we have said, if you look at the value chain, there's so much you can engage in. If you can do production, if you're not doing production, you can do marketing, you can provide services. There's so much. The IT, you can apply IT to agriculture, providing the apps and all that. There's so much that we can be able to engage in as the youth. So please, young people, engage yourselves in agriculture. There's so much you can be able to do. And if you want information, I have informed you that all this, we have all these offices. Then we have our agriculture stations. With there are a number of them out there, especially the Kenya Agriculture and Livestock Research Organization. They have a stand out here. You can engage them. You get to know how you can even engage them to advance your innovations and technologies. And then I also wanted to say that apart from that, also the Ministry of Agriculture, like any other department in government, takes up to youth interns, the agriculture graduates, every year. We take quite a number of them. And then somebody asked about the issue of funding the youth innovations. And what I would say is that what government does is to provide the enabling environment so that all the other stakeholders or the sector players can play their role. And when we look at the issues of innovations, the private sector can have a role. They can take up and scale up those innovations. Other stakeholders can take up the role. So what we are saying is that as government, we acknowledged that we cannot solve all the problems of our population. And that's why we work together. That's why even in a summit like this, we come together so that we sit together, we talk to one another, and we see. So that in this chain we see what can government do, what can the private sector do, what can the farmer do, what can all the other sector players, the academia, and all the other stakeholders, you know, the private industry, the companies, you know, the manufacturers. There's something all of us can do. So what we are saying, we need to work together, collaborate, you know, build synergies, and see how we can move the agenda of young people forward. And then somebody mentioned about sugar. I hope you're aware that recently the CS stopped importation of sugar apart from the Comesa region. So government is always listening, and just, you know, it's dynamic, seeing how we can be able to address issues as they come along. I hope I've been able to answer. Somebody talked about the Kenya seed, asking about the issue of seed. I think also as government, we allow all the players to play their role. You know, we don't close out private companies, but still Kenya Seed controls a big share, a market share of seed in this country. But as I've said, all the stakeholders have a role to play. You know, we cannot close out any company as long as they are there to the required standards. Out there also, we have our KEFIS stand. They are the ones who ensure that any seed that comes into this country has been checked and it adheres to the required standards. So we have those bodies within government to ensure that we regulate, but also just give that environment for everybody to do business in this country. Thank you.
So Milka, in very few words, there was a question that was directed to you.
I'm not sure that it's possible to answer that question in very few words, but I'll try. Because what she was mentioning is about what do we do? Like I mentioned at the beginning, most of the way we do things is informed by socio-cultural systems of how we live as a society, and sometimes the law follows that. But most of the situations you'll find that that's how things are organized. When she asked that question, I thought of the many examples of how people and women and youth have negotiated their spaces within our patriarchal system. For instance, we were discussing about these women in the Pokot region where there was a negotiation that was done and it was agreed, wewe baba, patia mama maziwa ya jio, mama maziwa ya jioni. So the milk that is milked in the evening belongs to the woman, and the milk for the morning belongs to the man. So the woman, because now she's getting something, she worked very hard, and the cow would produce a lot of milk in the evening and in the morning, and everybody was happy and was getting something. So sometimes the law will not come and deal with that. People need to negotiate these spaces, then the law will come and maybe regulate that. Or later on, even you don't need the law in that space. But that is a dispute resolution, negotiated spaces that needs to be encouraged within our communities. Where I come from, there was a lot of dispute between men and women, spouses, because when tea bonus would be given, of course, there were these stories of the men disappearing into the shopping center with someone else who did not pick the tea. And so all these disputes will break families and what? There was established a system where it was agreed, then divide these tea bushes. There is a side for the woman and the side for the man. So you all pick the tea, but everybody has a number and a bank account for it. And most homes were saved, and they survived. So there's a lot of that, especially now, that needs to be done. What can we do to negotiate these spaces so that the man has his space, the woman also has her space, and everybody is happy and is taken care of, and the youth also have space in this negotiated system, even as we push the law. Finally, public participation works. I remember there was this proposed law on the bees, and I saw bees sector people come up so strong, and it didn't go sail through in Parliament. It didn't go because they were so strong, and they raised the arm, and I know some of them are here. So, and you can participate, you can actually take part in public participation at the ministerial level, and I think that's what Elizabeth is saying, that they're improving this system. And also at the parliamentary level. People who are really interested in these things, we can engage. If you participate at the ministerial level, then you have a very high chance that the draft that will end up in Parliament has these issues already included. When you participate at the parliamentary level, it becomes now more of a gamble of getting your issues included. Then it requires more resources and more efforts and more work to ensure that you're listened to and you're considered in terms of what finally comes out. So I think I've rallied everyone to ensure that we are participating in ensuring that we are focusing, looking at the laws that are being discussed, that are being passed, and participating and making sure that they're getting gender and youth mainstreaming is at the forefront. Thank you.
Very well said. Gender, youth, inclusion is a negotiated art. Remember, this is power, yeah? You cannot fight for power, you can only negotiate for power. And I think we are learning that day by day. Beijing is about to be 30 years, and I think within the 30 years, we are the products of the likes who went to Beijing. That's why we are standing here. So, in 2 sentences, I would like you to pass the mic and give us your parting shot.
Yeah, thank you so much. I had a question that revolves around the youth in ICT and also in AgTech. Visible, yeah, thanks. So I'm a technical founder myself, and part of what we do is digitizing the potato value chain. We are really struggling to access finance to better our operations. There are a lot of funds in the private sector and the public sector, but we still struggle to get this. We are doing a lot of work, and we're being told, you guys are doing a really good job. This is, you're going to be very successful, and everything is going to be fine. But where is the funding? Like, we can't access it. Everyone is just speaking about how you guys are youth and vibrant in agriculture, but we still can't access financing. And whenever we try to fundraise, we try to come up with anything that can boost us as a company, we still find that the funding is something that really needs to be addressed. And I would not want to say that there's a lot of gatekeeping that's happening, But I think at some point we also need to see how this thing can be addressed, because instead of giving feedback of how good an innovation is, we can really take it extra by making sure we are providing the right resources for the young people to propel in agriculture. Because if we don't do that, the youth are going to be discouraged, and then it's going to make agriculture different. Of course, there are a lot of assumptions. People always talk about, the youth are digital and smart, and they can actually adopt these technologies. But let me tell you guys, that is a very big assumption, and you really need to start looking at things from the ground. Because if we speak about how we are connected, we have smartphones, everyone will smile and say, yeah, that is true. But if you go to the ground, people are looking for these opportunities, and they want someone who can really handhold them. So I hope that maybe whoever is in the room listening, we can actually be able to engage with further to sort of like see how we can support the innovations that we have. You can also just check us out. My name is Wilson. Our company is called Mzizi App. We are trying to digitize the entire potato value chain, but we'd really like the support from anyone in the room who's willing to just handhold us and take us to the next level. Thank you.
Maybe Charity, you can pick that as up.
Thanking them for doing very well and coming up with such a solution that can help the farmers. But on my side, I would really want to encourage him to show us this person who needs the app. We can finance that person who needs the app. We give them the money, and the person or the farmer or the institution can be left paying us pole pole. So there's a way we can do it from the person who is buying the solution. So we can do that, and not only for Mzizi, but everyone else who has a solution that can help somebody else, we come through for such interventions. And also for those who have products that they have to sell, we do ecosystem financing, where we can finance the person who is supposed to buy from you. So don't go ahead and give credit, and credit that will never be paid. Let the bank come in between. Let us finance the person who is buying the product from you. You get the cash, you continue doing your business, and that person will be left paying Equity Bank pole pole, depending on their cash flows once again. My parting shot is to encourage everyone in the house to go and read more about African Recovery and Resilience Plan, which is the main strategy of Equity Bank, not only in Kenya, but in all the subsidiaries. That's Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Congo. We have Uganda and South Sudan, and a representative office in Ethiopia. And our main focus is on food and agriculture. I repeat again, our main focus is on food and agriculture. And therefore this conversation must continue, because it's through food and agriculture that we are going to achieve what we ought to achieve. We have other pillars. We have the trade and investments. We have MSMEs. We have tech-enabled ecosystem, where Mzizi now is sitting in the tech-enabled ecosystem. Social and environment transformation, manufacturing and logistics. As you well know, within the food chain, something will be converted somewhere to an end product. That's part of manufacturing. And for us to achieve the 100 million customers, there are 100 million customers in Africa, food and agriculture leads, because that's where we know people are going to be employed, and they are going to employ more people. So our 100 million will come from the whole of Africa, and we know out of the 100 million, 5 million will be borrowing customers. And the good thing is that when these 5 million borrow, we know the 5 million will employ, and most people do employ like 5 to 10 people. So we are putting it at a minimum of 5. So we are going to create 25 million jobs if only the 5 million borrow. And out of the 25 million will be employed, plus the other borrowers, we know we are going to borrow we are going to on lend to even more customers, including the 25 million. So I encourage each one of you to read about ARRP. You can Google it, it's out in the Google, and learn more what Equity is up to. And for your insurance solutions, please come to Equity Bank. We know we have farmers, and we can sort you out 100%. Thank you.
Maybe, Elizabeth, as you give your parting shot. you can also inform the community here about the Linkage Technical Working Group, where we can bring all these solutions for women and youth together.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot, Kevina. Yeah, we have just started a technical linkage forum where we want to link all the stakeholders who are dealing with issues, women and youth empowerment in the agriculture sector. We just started last week, and we would like to bring on board all the other players so that we can continue such conversations going forward to see how we can be able to empower both the women and youth in agriculture. So in my parting shot, I would say that issues, women, youth, the challenges and the opportunities that they have are usually very context specific. So even as we sit here and discuss the kind of issues facing a youth who is in Mandera, and another one in Kisumu, another one at the coast, another one here in Nairobi, they are very different. And so I would just say that it's important that we be context specific as we look at the challenges and the opportunities that are presented to us. And even as we sit together, government and all the other stakeholders, we are able to sit down and craft solutions. And it is something dynamic. It's something that we have to keep doing because problems and challenges keep coming up, and we have to keep looking for solutions. So I would say the government is ready to work with all of us, because all of us are government, yeah? We are serikali ni yetu na sisi ni serikali, okay? So we work together and we see how we can be able to provide solutions for one another to be able to empower women and youth in agriculture. Because as the president of the Africa Development Bank says, the future of this continent is in agribusiness. So I just urge all of us, let's embrace agribusiness. There's a lot of opportunities in this sector. Thank you very much.
Give us your parting shot, Milka.
Thank you. Yes, there's one more low-hanging fruit that I didn't mention. There's a price control. It's not yet has not yet been published as a bill. It's a legislative proposal, but that means it can be published as a bill anytime. And definitely, it's about the money that you're going to get from the business you're doing, the agriculture you're doing. So let's engage and engage more. And when we engage, let's always ask how. The question how is this going to be done is very, very important, so that you can always follow up with, if the law does not provide how, you propose. And if the law has been passed and need regulation, follow up with the regulation themselves, because the regulations are also very important, because they actually provide the nitty-gritties on how. There was a time I was having a small discussion, I'm just ignoring you now, with Madam Agatha, and she talked to me about when this law about potatoes and packaging 50 kg bags and all that happened, and then the question of how this was going to be regulated in terms of penalties, and when you are found to have to be carrying these potatoes beyond 50 kgs, and police will just arrest people and detain a lorry of potato for several days until the case is done. Imagine the kind of loss, because there was not a thinking through process in the how. What about if the how was, what if you're found to have violated? What happened? There is an officer. Elizabeth will tell you there's an officer who is qualified to be able to, on the ground, be able to say this is what, and the fine can be written, and you're allowed to carry your potatoes and come to court on Monday and be fined, and whatever other process can ban, and the farmer is saved of the losses. So let's also engage in the regulations, and the how question is very important. Thank you.
Kenneth, you had the youth.
Yes. So my parting shot will be just a call out to all partners in the house to really look at ICT as an enabler where we could be able to solve all these problems, their access to finance, their access to markets. Someone talked about, the money going to the man instead of the woman. So how can we use data really to solve that kind of a problem? And part of the initiatives that we have at KENAF is we are building digital profiles for farmers, and then connecting them to better quality inputs, connecting them to better markets, connecting them to finances. The project is called Farm Community Pass in partnership with MasterCard. And through that platform, we've been able to register 303,000 farmers. And I'm glad to report that 51% of those farmers are women. And so also through the program, we are working with empowering women, whereby we are building their capacities, and so that they can be the digital agricultural champions within their communities. And we are also working with youth as well. So this is a call out to all. For KENAF, our target is to register 5 million farmers. So we're not even a quarter of it. So it's a call out to all partners who are working with farmers, so that we can be able to collaborate and to ensure that our farmers are able to compete fairly on a digital global economy. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jackson, for adding us 2 more minutes. And I think it's been a powerful discussion, telling us, one, I think it was very interesting to understand that it's not there is no money, but the women are fearing the money. So I think it's the responsibility of each and every one of us here to educate and give information to the women and youth. Information is power. I think the first step towards empowerment is about sharing of knowledge. So if we want to embrace sustainability in the innovations, in competitiveness in agriculture, women and the youth are usually the frontline soldiers. We need to give them the information so that we can improve and better the agriculture sector. So without further ado and diluting what has been said, I think I'll hand over the session back to Jackson. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're going to give a big clap to the team, Gender Inclusiveness. Thank you so much. We are so grateful. I think we just leave the tables. You can carry your water. But I would like Magdalene to remain behind. Magdalene, a bit just. And I will also at the moment, I know we are trying to manage, the time is not easy. The content is too, we say high voltage. We cannot stop it, but we will try to as much as possible. Dr. Songa, please try to be running your team and start settling down on the panel. I think we shall not do a break, but I'll ask you to stand up. It's a summit, it's a bit difficult, you are so many, but just stand up where you are and try to relax a bit as you take some bit of stretching. Just, we cannot do an exercise in a summit, but try to do something to relax a bit, to break the monotony as Dr. Songa is settling down with the team. You can also greet your friend. Do you know each other, by the way? You sat together, and I don't know, can say hi, ask them, like the preachers, tell your neighbor how you're feeling, how is it? And I believe we are achieving something. It's a bit packed, but you can buzz to your neighbor. Maybe you don't know them, exchange a smile, just to break the monotony. We don't have much time for exercises. We should have done some games, but in a summit, I think it's a bit difficult. Good. Magdalene, you are ready? Very good. Please have a seat. I'll tell you something. For you who may not know Dr. Mairodha from KENAF, is a chief executive, Kenya Natural Farmers Federation. He was supposed to make a presentation this time before this panel discussion, but he is not around. And so I'll give Magdalene this microphone before Dr. Songa is sitting down. Maybe you can also, please, so that we put it in record. In 2 minutes, please tell us. Don't make a presentation. Dr. Songa, thank you so much. So that you will say the moderator did not give you the opportunity, but keep it short. We are now running out of time, but You don't have even to go it, you can just run through it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. My name is Magdalena Luhava, Head of Data, Innovations and ICT at the Kenya National Farmers Federation. Unfortunately, the CEO, Dr. Mwenda Mailutha, was not able to make it, but he did send his regards and also his remarks as well. So if you would allow me, I would read them out. So to all distinguished guests and dear delegates, it is looking at our country's economic development profile, the agri sector in general, there is nothing more critical than promoting inclusive value chain and market access for farmers. Forming the majority of our population and contributing to about 75% of Kenya agricultural output, with no option but to build an enabling architecture, transforming and progressively developing how these farmers produce and access markets is our only pathway to 1, realizing the imperatives envisaged in the BITA, 2, achieving SDGs, Goal 1 and 2, and 3, making Kenya Vision 2030 a reality for the majority of our country population. So how do we do this? Number 1 is by improving access to finance instruments for smallholder farmers. And this must not be allowed to continue being a cliche. Farmer-focused credit and insurance products should be a concern for all of us. If we all support farmers of this country to create meaningfully and sustained wealth, the country's wealth profile shall rise exponentially. And this will be good for everyone, the farmers, and the private sector, and the government. Number 2 is by enabling smallholder farmers to leverage ICT applications and data innovation. This is the future, and farmers must not be left behind. It behooves all actors in the sector to focus on this. In particular, let us go for applications that are farmer-driven, practical, and reaching a critical mass for farmers across this country. In this regard, KENAF has been implementing a very innovative USSD-based intervention for technical advisory, as well as weather information and market facilitation services. The Federation, in the context of mobilizing access to the digital economy, MED Alliance, is also working with local partners, that is African Development Bank, MasterCard Corporation, Microsoft, and the Shell Foundation, to bring 50 million farmers into Community Pass, a powerful and farmer-driven digital application to support farmers' access to products, services, and credit. KENAF shall be reaching out to all actors in the sector to support this for the farmers of Kenya and the long-term good of our country. The third one is to support farmers to build resilience against climate change. We must all be awake to the existential danger climate change poses to our country's agri-food system. Let us all commit to climate-smart agriculture and availing the farmers of Kenya the tools to adapt and build the resilience, the necessary resilience. The fourth point is inclusive agricultural sector in Kenya. The critical role women play in this country's agriculture sector and the rural economy in particular must be underlined and incentivized as appropriate. The sector also holds great potential in employment and wealth creation for the youth. Let us build and strengthen this sector to attract the energy, enthusiasm, innovativeness, and creativity of this country's youth. We owe it to the posterity to do this. And lastly, strengthening farmer organization through value chain approach. We must build the capacity of farmers to organize at the grassroots into viable value chain-based associations and cooperatives. At the county and national level, we must strengthen KENAF, the farmer's voice, enhancing the agency of smallholder farmers to hold, lobby, and advocate the government at both levels, as well as negotiate with the market, is a tide that shall lift all the boats. Let us all renew our commitment to these precepts. Thank you all so much for your attention.
Dr. Songa, the floor is yours. Pigieni msichana makofi. Give her a clap because she really wanted to say that on behalf of Kenneth, and I said it's necessary to go for record. Thank you.
Good, thank you very much, Jackson. I think from what I can see here, Jackson, you don't need to worry about time. I have a very informed team here, which I believe is going to be very precise in their answers and very clear to what the audience may want to know. And as you can see, they all agree that market access is critical. And this applies to all the players on the value chain at any stage. Whatever anybody is doing at that particular point has what are the market requirements required. And that can only be achieved if we make sure it is from the beginning of production up to consumption. So I will go straight to Mr. Anthony Kyoko. I think let me have just quickly, in 1.5 minutes, just introduce yourselves before we get into business.
Thank you, Dr. Songa. My name is Anthony Kyoko, Chief Executive Officer, Cereal Growers Association. Cereal Growers Association is a national membership organization that brings all cereal farmers together and related value chains together with their suppliers and service providers to solve common problems that afflict the sector. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Michelle Kagari. I'm a Senior Director with One Acre Fund. One Acre Fund is a non-profit agriculture social enterprise. We work with smallholder farmers, and our vision is to support smallholder farmers to achieve big harvests, farm healthy soils, eat nutritious foods, and become more prosperous. We are in 9 countries in sub-Saharan Africa. In Kenya, One Acre Fund goes by the name Tupande, and today I'm here, we'll be speaking specifically to Tupande. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Richard Fox. I'm the Sustainability Director of Flamingo Horticulture. We have been in the horticultural sector since 1980, and we're perhaps one of the largest growers and exporters of produce into Europe, and we're employing around 11,000 people. We've also have a very active outgrower program, growing products that basically we don't have space to grow. So we cover quite a broad range of agricultural capacity in the business. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Bill Ngumi, in charge of operations at Kentrade. Kentrade is a state corporation established under an Act of Parliament, that is the Kenya National Electronic Single Window Act of 2022, with the mandate to implement and operationalize what we call the National Electronic Single Window, and also undertake various trade facilitation initiatives aimed at improving cross-border trade. Thank you.
Good, and I'm going to moderate. My name is Wilson Songa from Sustainable Agriculture Foundation, Africa, formerly Syngenta Foundation, East Africa. So we will go straight to Anthony Kyoko, who's the CEO of CGA. Bwana Kyoko, your organization unites farmers, organizations, and partners of all scales for collaborative growth. So what activities, Bwana Kyoko, or services do you provide your members to enhance market access? And also, whom do you partner with to provide these services? Because I believe you may not be able to provide all these services by yourself. In 3 to 4 minutes, Mr. Kyoko, can you tell us something about what I've just asked you?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Songa. You're right, we represent both large and small scale farmers, but then also away from the 600,000 farmers that we work with across 30 counties in the country, we also bring together a wide range of partners, private sector, especially companies that work with farmers at all levels to provide services that farmers need. Now, talking about markets or market access, I want to look at it from a broader perspective where we're talking not only about the produce market access, but also the input market, because that's where it starts, like you've correctly said. It has to be from the farm to the focal plate, as some people say. Now, when it comes to what the market looks like, and from our perspective, working with all these farmers, what we've come to realize over time is that it takes three things for proper market access to function. Number one, as you'd imagine, is quality. Number two would be quantity, because volumes are important for economies of scale. And then you have accessibility, or the location of where this produce is. And the question you ask about the services or the activities that we undertake with all these farmers and stakeholders speak to the effort to realize those three goals. Because we know that in many cases, especially in the space that we operate in, food crops, lack of market is not so much the issue, because we are a deficit country and most of what is produced eventually gets sold anyway. The issue is it a remunerative market? Is it a market that allows the farmer to get back to the farm and to continue farming? Because farmers are private sector players, they're investors, they're business people, and they want to make money in addition to feeding themselves. And so the activities that we do with the farmers fall under 3 or 4 pillars. The first one is policy, advocacy, and dialogue. And therefore, you find we have many conversations with government at all levels to ensure that issues that you hear spoken about, some of them mentioned earlier today, are addressed on a continuous basis, many times behind the scenes. I think Dr. Kantaria, the chairman, said that in the morning, that there are many conversations that we undertake, and that is important. Number two, we have technical support services. You just mentioned about quality. And the issue of quality has everything to do with training, farmer training on post-harvest handling, for example. How do you ensure that what goes to the market is suitable for the market? Number three, we also engage in what we call business linkage activities, where we hold meetings with the off-takers. We have this concept within our organization where we say, let farmers produce for the market, not to market. There's a big difference between those two. What does the market want, and how does the farmer then prepare themselves to realize whatever it is that the market wants? And number 4 is information or data sharing, to ensure that farmers make decisions based on data and correct information. So these are all things that we do, and obviously we do this in partnerships with many actors.
When you see me move away from it, you know you have 1 minute.
Yes.
Proceed.
Oh, you are just telling me that I have 1 minute. I thought it was an additional question. That's okay. Yeah, I understand. And the one thing that is also important, and many stakeholders in this hall would admit and would agree to, is that sometimes it takes some keen listening to understand what the two sides want. We have seen cases where buyers of certain produce are crying, they're saying there's nothing, or there's not sufficient volumes, and right across the street, not literally, you find there are farmers who are struggling to get somewhere to sell the same produce. And so those conversations are always very important. The partnerships that we have are broad-based. We work with both public and private sector players. We work with government at all levels, like I mentioned. We work with development partners. We work with a lot of private sector players with whom we do this business to business linkage, and many other players. And these partnerships are all context specific, and we look forward to getting on to create even more such partnerships for the sake of the farmers that we serve. Let me leave it for that moment.
Thank you very much, Anthony. Now, Michelle, there's one area that you may have a little more experience than Anthony, that space of working with smallholders. One Acre Fund has huge experience with working with smallholders, no doubt about it. And you support many staple crops, such as maize and beans, which farm families rely on for food. You also offer commercial crops and even livestock to help farmers diversify their incomes. How do you, Michelle, help to ensure the surplus food crops and commercial crops and even the livestock get easy access to the market? Because your first priority is the food security, but in the event they have excess, how do you make sure they access the market?
Thank you very much. And yes, you're right. One Acre Fund focuses on working with smallholder farmers. And we do have quite a strong track record. In Kenya, for example, we've been in the market since 2006. As of last year, we served 980,000 smallholder farmers, and we are on track this year to have served 1 million plus farmers. As Mr. Kioko said, One Acre Fund also takes a holistic approach. And so our interventions, we design our interventions with the smallholder farmer at the center. In fact, our motto in One Acre Fund is farmers first. And so with regards to staple crops, actually with all our interventions, as Mr. Kioko said, we look at the quality of the inputs. And so we are specialized in last mile delivery, guaranteed quality inputs. In Kenya, we do this primarily through our rural retail network. We have 330 dukas operating in 34 counties. I don't know if you've seen some yellow containers with a green leaf. That's our agrovet outlets. And we provide these inputs within walking distance. We leverage tech. We have a Tupande app through which you can register and do online shopping. You can pick up your inputs at the store or they can be delivered to you. And our stores are placed quite strategically. We try to prioritize underserved communities. And then even as we provide these inputs, another product that we give which solves for the problem farmers have with regards to financing is that we provide asset-based credit, which means that you can get your inputs, your farm inputs on credit. These are fixed loans with flexible repayment. This is one of our most popular products ever since we started. To give you a sense of the size of this product, this year our loan portfolio is 3.5 billion Kenya shillings. Our repayment, just as a shout out to the panel that was here before, ever since we started, our repayment has been over 94%. And actually the worst repayment we had was during COVID, when we also had flooding. And at that time, the repayment was 94%. On average, it's between 98 to 99% repayment, which proves that farmers are credit worthy. We also provide support with information so that farmers can maximize their yields, minimum access markets. Now, with staple products, what we do is help farmers store their surplus properly and then provide them with knowledge so that they're not taking their surplus to market with everyone else. We use, we say tattoo, which is keep 3 bags for 3 months before to market so that you can get the best price. We are also doing market access for commercial farming. We specialize, we've worked with macadamia and avocado. We do aggregation and to help farmers access regional and international markets. The approach is the same as with staple products. We walk the journey with the farmers. And what's specific about our avocado and macadamia Just to give you a sense of what we were able to do last year, we were able to aggregate tons of avocado and 2,100 metric tons of macadamia. And we were able to process 570 metric tons of macadamia. And what we've done is that we secure certifications for farmers so that they are able to access those markets because they are certified. So with one of the key certifications for avocado is like the GCAP certification. We've been able to certify 6,000 farmers, which is actually 74% of farmers working with avocado. And actually I have got some news. Last month, we won a No Gap Changemakers Award at the producers category because of the work that we've been doing with the smallholder farmers. We've also been able to secure certification for 3,000 Rainforest Alliance. Now, getting these certifications acts as a guarantee that your product is going to meet the quality standards. And with that guarantee, then we are able to access markets for farmers. We buy the produce of the farmers and we are able to give them a competitive rate and then use that to access these markets. We are also dealing with agroforestry. Agroforestry, especially in the context of climate change, is one of our big interventions. To date, we've been able to distribute 60 million trees. That's on average 10 million trees per year. What we do is we contract farmers as outgrowers to develop seedlings in tree nurseries. We buy these seedlings off smallholder farmers for distribution. Now, depending on the trees, some of the trees we distribute for free, but some come at a subsidized rate. Yeah, I think those are the key points. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Richard, horticulture has done very well in this country. And this has been because of good work by the private sector and with very good support of the regulatory government institutions. It is not easy to, sustain the way we have. Please let us know how you have managed to be able to get information that is required at the production stage, information that is required by those playing a role in processing, and really it's actually through the entire value chain until for example, for consumption. How do you make sure that you pick up this information in good time, are in the know, so that you remain competitive?
Dr. Arisanti, I think what you're really talking about is vertical integration. It's basically, if we look at what vertical integration means, it means you can control or you can influence every step from growing to the final customer. Information on markets, on prices, volumes, and supply programs are collected and disseminated to every group or person under your control within that vertically integrated process. So you can plan your business. If you suddenly find that the grower is producing a lot because of climate, that information goes up through the marketing people to the customer, and they may promote a particular product. So you don't sort of throw that product away, you put it into the market, maybe at a slightly reduced price, but at least you're able to sell it. We've talked a lot about smallholders, and you could probably say they're the prime example of a non-vertically integrated business. So if you're a smallholder or a non-integrated, not vertically integrated, you're most likely one link in the supply chain dependent on the next. Information is dependent on the person who is next in the supply chain. So the information of what to grow, when to grow, how to grow, and for what price to grow is available to a grower in a vertically integrated business, as well as the organization and cost to get the product to market. So in a vertically integrated business, you're in control of every step. You know what it's costing you. and you can run and produce a business plan to work in that way. For the smallholder farmer operating independently, he's really dependent mostly, and I'll come on to some of the other initiatives we've heard about today, of someone coming to his door and say, I'll buy your avocados when they're ripe and this is the price, I'll give it to you. So he's really dependent on that next stage. So in Kenya, most of the organized supply chains exist in business supplying the export markets. Market intelligence is well developed. We have strong BMOs who can provide the necessary information, and also the information from SBS issues and issues dealing with compliance. But actually this only represents about 5% of our total agricultural, horticultural production in Kenya. The remainder is largely through smallholders. About 75% of the remainder is product that comes through smallholders in a market hoc basis, where the activities of middlemen significantly affect the price that the farmer finally gets for his product. So in this situation, and again, I'm now looking at the smallholder environment. So how can we get better information and organization to be instilled in the sector so that farmers have the tools to make the decisions of what to grow, when to grow, how much to grow, and what he can expect his returns to be? How can he ensure food is safe for consumption? Food safety is a big focus on product going to export markets, but what ensure the vehicle that could be used to bring them all together? Maybe it's a role that ASNET could play, but there needs to be more coordination so that combined effort is maximized. Yeah, I think that's really what I say. I think what we need to do is to provide a way that the smallholders are encouraged and through IT and other platforms so that they get a fair price for the product that they're producing.
Yeah, thank you very much, Richard. It would really to also hear from cooperatives. Cooperatives were supposed to be part of this panel, and we would have seen in what context cooperatives assist Anthony in his work, cooperatives assist Michelle, and cooperatives assist Richard in his work. So, Billy, now it's your turn. As a trade facilitator, tell us about CenTrade. What is trade facilitation? Let these people know there is this institution called CenTrade that is at the apex and makes sure that market access is something that becomes easy, and this special window. Let people know about this special window and how they can benefit from it.
Thank you, Daktari. It's quite an interesting topic of trade facilitation. Everywhere you go is all about trade facilitation. For all those people involved in cross-border trade and also domestic trade, there are things we call procedures or processes. And in the morning you heard from Dr. Vimal about incoherent policies that are introduced by the government. So when you have those incoherent policies, you're about to get incoherent processes. And that is what used to happen way back before CenTrade was set up. We have a case study of a farmer leaving all the way from Eldoret, coming to Nairobi, and spending a whole week in Nairobi getting an export license because everything is paper-based, including the payments. So essentially, when CenTrade was set up, was to address those challenges. And going back to your question about trade facilitation, trade facilitation as defined by World Trade Organization is purely simplification, making trade processes simple, and then when you modernize them, you don't make them and then simple and then leave them the way they are. You modernize them by aligning them to the modern ways of operations, technology, and then you harmonize those incoherent policies and processes. You harmonize them by bringing together all those regulatory agencies. So at the end of the day, once you manage to simplify and modernize and also harmonize the processes, your end goal is reducing time and costs that the farmer or a business person is incurring when it comes to bringing, for example, a farmer, when you're bringing inputs to do with your farming and the outputs, if you're exporting your outputs, the farm produce. So we have agencies. Right now, the single window is a one-stop shop, or what we call a one single point of entry, where you get all regulatory services. For example, if you're exporting coffee, I heard there was a team from coffee here. There are key documents that are required. The phytosanitary certificate, it's a key. A port health export certificate, it's key. You don't have to travel all the way to the AFA offices to get that certificate. At the comfort of your office, you are able to get access through the portal that we have provided, the trade facilitation platform. You are able to get access. You apply for those exports, phytosanitary certificates from KEFIS. You also make payments online, and those applications are able to be routed to the various agencies, and they are able to approve them. And from there, you're able to export or even import your consignment. So in a nutshell, as an agency, that's our mandate as defined by the government. Just to make sure that all the international trade processes are made simpler, they are simplified, they are modernized, and they are harmonized. And at the end of the day, through the case studies that have been done, we have actually found that the cost of doing business has really reduced. There was a study done by World Bank back in 2021 that showed us that for every transaction after the implementation of the single window, we were able to save almost 30 shillings per transaction in terms of time and cost. So that's what I'll say for now.
Yeah, thank you very much, Billy. And at that point now, we will open the discussion to the floor for some very precise questions to these very informed panelists. Jackson, how many questions shall I take? Short and precise. I think I'll also be gender sensitive. I'll start with this lady and then the gentleman there. Somebody take the mic. There's a lady there, then the gentleman is there. Please be precise in your question.
Okay.
Don't be an unofficial panelist.
No, I went to Dr. Songa. My question is to KenTrade and the introduction of blockchain technology, especially for trade facilitation by the public sector. So how are you preparing, especially the private sector, taking into account the great digital divide, especially with the smallholder farmers, to onboard this new transition in the trade facilitation platform? Thank you.
That is going to KenTrade. Good, thank you. Yes, the gentleman across there, please.
Thank you. Mine will be compliment and then question.
Okay, we can have you, but it was the gentleman there who was supposed to take the mic.
Oh.
But it's okay. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, mine, I wanted to say that very powerful presentation. I appreciate. Very professional. But I didn't hear insurance cover along the value chain of all the businesses that we do. That's one. And number two, into that is making business easy, cheap, so that that smallholder can also see value for participating. And here we have so many licenses along the value chain. How are we doing to reduce so that at least the farmer can get value?
Good. Thank you very much. Ease of doing business, that is going to be KenTrade as well. Yes.
Thank you very much. I'm Dr. Kirilkovian Wasike from Maseno University. My question goes to Tupande. And the question is, how are we working towards ensuring food sovereignty amidst the debate on seed control, and particularly from the large multinational seed companies? And then the second question, which goes to Kentred, is we appreciate that statistics show that over a quarter of the food produced goes to waste because of market limitations and sensitivity of what is to be marketed. Look at broiler and hotel industry, look at horticultural produce. How is Kentred facilitating minimization of food loss, post-harvest losses?
Thank you very much. Question from this side? Yes, the gentleman down here.
Thank you very much. My name is Mumbai from Organic Kilemba. So my question goes to Richard on the export to EU. I wanted him to touch on the effect of CBAM, the carbon border adjustment mechanism, and how it will affect the export to EU.
Good. The final one. Right back there.
Thank you, sir, for the opportunity. My name is Nehemiah. In Richard Fox. I think I was in Homegrown in 2002. Yes, sir. So my question is to Richard Fox. Are we prepared for the EUDR? Because it's targeted in December. There's so much ties to try to regulate all the business that are tied to the EU deforestation. How prepared are we on the tech field? Because I discovered instead of developing systems from here, we have to go and look for them in EU. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. We'll come down. Let's start with Kentred, please.
Thank you. And I'll start with the first question that was to do with the blockchain. And this aligns to what I was saying in terms of processes, modernization. And I'm happy to report that, because I'm government, I'm supposed to report to you, is that we have a blockchain. We partnered with Trademark Africa, and we started doing a proof of concept just before COVID, and it was successful. And essentially that that blockchain entails transmission of export documents, especially the export certificates, the FITO. We have done a test with the Dutch customs for all our exports, especially the flowers and the vegetables and all the perishable agricultural produce going to the European market. Essentially what it entails that once those documents are approved within the single window, within seconds, through that blockchain technology, they're already on the other side. So essentially it eliminates the paperwork. You find before we implemented that blockchain, a consignment leaving Jomo Kenyatta Airport is accompanied by paper. So that means customs on the other side will start processing that consignment the moment it lands there, because they have to receive those paper. So we have transitioned, and right now we are working with His Majesty's Customs to link the UK Customs to the blockchain. We had a meeting 3 weeks ago at the British High Commission, so that we're able to facilitate, especially our key export commodities, tea and the rest, to be on board that blockchain. So that is something that we are working on. And apart from the blockchain, we have the data analytics. We have a lot of data because we have a convergence of over 43 government agencies, 20,000 users using the systems. And what you're looking at is that we have come up with a business intelligence tool for reporting. So essentially, even ASNet and the rest can be able to access that tool. It's just for a few subscription fee, and you're able to get reports on the market trends. And this one will assist the market, especially the post-harvest. That question to do with post-harvest, with predictability. We're able to predict in terms of where certain commodities are moving to, the market, international markets. We have also come up with a portal, InfoTrade portal, aligning ourselves to WTO, TFA agreement. And in that portal, which is accessible, is that we have documented import and export procedures for over 140 commodities. We do that on annual basis. Every year we do 10 commodities, key export commodities. And after that, we do simplification. We look at those procedures that we have documented. Like this year, we are simplifying export of coconut oil, and also pesticides. And we simplify those products. So that portal enables anyone who wants to export or import to access real-time information, and they're able to get firsthand on what they are supposed to align themselves in terms of compliance with various regulatory agencies. The second question was to do with the licenses, what we are doing to ease of doing business. I think you have been seeing from the media about the issues to do with parastatals. Back in the year 2020, we did an analysis report, which is submitted to our parent ministry, that is the National Treasury. And we have identified key areas that need to be improved in terms of regulatory. There are so much duplicated mandates. You find agencies doing the same work when it comes to regulatory. So we did make proposals, and I'm happy this government is taking it seriously. And we are going to see those implementation, because you find you are dealing with like 5 government agencies with the same, and there's a cost involved, cost and time. And you heard about the post-harvest. These are exports, perishables. You don't have time. We have folks here exporting those perishable goods. He doesn't have time for his goods to go through 5 agencies with similar mandates. So that is an initiative that we undertook through a trade facilitation, and we are hopefully it will be actualized by the current government. On post-harvest losses, what we do is that we do capacity building for MSMEs. Just last week, we had a session with Embu County and the Embu MSMEs, where we were able to create capacity building, especially in areas to do with exports. We have this new initiative that is everywhere, the African Free Trade Area, ACFTA. We have certified trainers, so we're able to create awareness to our farmers that once you get your farm produce out of the farm, they just go to the next market, your local market. There's a market outside there. So we're able to capacity build, and you find those farmers now are able to access those markets. We had a case study in Gishu. Many farmers went and started their avocado farming, but unfortunately they didn't have knowledge on the international trade. So we were able to go there and build capacity, and most of them now are exporting those avocados. We have also partnered with Keproba and State Department of Trade. Keproba, they are coming up with a portal which is going to provide market access, to provide information about where farmers can be able to export their commodities. So for us, with the data we have, we're able now to collaborate with those agencies and assist farmers and other business community to access those markets. So that's it.
Thank you very much, Billy, for those very comprehensive responses. Richard, exports to the EU?
Yes, I think you mentioned FCM, is that right? I thought you were mentioning FCM. Okay, carbon market. I think it's an area, certainly as far as the EU, products going into the EU are concerned, you're going to have your footprint and finding ways to demonstrate that you're doing your business more sustainably. The majority of people are taking on the scientific route of carbon footprinting and offsetting, where you can only offset 10% of your total emissions against, say, a forestry project or something else. The other 90% has to come through improvements in the efficiency of your business. And this is a real challenge for us, where a substantial amount of our more than 70% of our emissions are from air freight. So the industry has been innovative, and we started looking at air freight, and that was going very well until we had the political problems which stopped sea freight going through the Red Sea and the Suez. But I think one of the things I've come to learn, I've been 40 years in this business, is the industry is innovative and it'll come up with solutions. But yes, these are things we're going to have to face. I think the other one was...
Regulations for deforestation?
On deforestation. Yeah, another one. You know, we tend to criticize our own government for introducing legislation without too much thought. Well, it's not peculiar. Many governments in the world seem to do this as well. And I think they're having to re-look at how this can actually implement it over time. And I saw an article last week that the EU is starting to look at how can this be realistically be implemented, because it will have a big effect on production in the developing world. Well, if I could just say one point on waste that the gentleman up there talked about. I think the waste is much higher than you suggested. I think it's about 50% of what we produce is wasted. And I remember a discussion a few years ago how the world has got to increase its food capacity to feed its enlarged population. Well, actually what we should be doing is produce the same and waste less. In the 90s, there was a very good project here, was initiated by HCDA, which Horticultural Facilities Handling Project, which set up satellite cold stores in all the key growing and smallholder key areas, and they set up a central cold store at the airport. And the idea was that farmers could get their product into a cold room quickly, and then it would be transported to Nairobi in refrigerated trucks. So there is, and I don't know, that project never really materialized, although all the infrastructure is there, and I think they're looking to rehabilitate the infrastructure and possibly increase it. But you're quite right, we must reduce waste.
Good. I think that also addresses what he mentioned as food sovereignty.
Actually, I can also speak to the question on insurance and then the food sovereignty. So yeah, thank you so much for raising the question of insurance. Smallholder farmers are especially vulnerable to the devastating impacts of climate change. And so having a real safety net becomes a key aspect of helping to build farmers' resilience. 1 Acre Fund is actually the largest distributor of insurance for farmers in the region. Currently, we provide insurance that has got 3 pillars. So covers for the resupply of inputs, covers for loan reductions and forgiveness. So for example, in 2020, if you remember, we had the locusts, and then we had COVID, and then we had flooding. And so we did quite a lot of loan forgiveness for farmers at that time. And then we also provide yield-based insurance. What we have noticed, though, is that the insurance products in the market, not just Kenya, but across the insurance sector, don't provide real safety nets for farmers. Because, for example, by the time your losses, like usually with yield-based insurance, there has to be a threshold. And so you'll find differences with smallholder farmers in particular, where one smallholder farmer, let's say in a part of Vihiga, experiences devastating loss. But then in the whole of Vihiga County, it doesn't reach the threshold for the insurance to be triggered. And so then how does the farmer get paid? So you've got that. And then the second is the amount of time it takes before insurance payouts, when a farmer will need to be compensated or will need to know what's happening in a timely manner. And so last year, we launched 1 Acre Fund Re, which is a reinsurance company that is designed to provide products that will be a real safety net for farmers. We are very excited about this venture. We are doing it in partnership with the International Finance Corporation, the Development Finance Corporation, and the Africa Risk Capacity. And right now where we are at is designing products that will solve for the challenges that farmers face with the current insurance products in the market. So watch this space. With regards to food sovereignty, the interventions that we make, and it won't be specific to Tupande, now I'm speaking about One Acre Fund, which is the parent company. Primarily our interventions are two. One is through systems change work, and two is through advocacy and policy work. So with the systems change work that we're doing, we recognize that when it comes to food and food sovereignty and seed, one of the fundamental challenges that we face in the region is seed shortages, shortages of quality seed. So for example, there's a shortage of legumes in the region. And even when you've got like a shortage in Kenya, I don't know if we've solved for our soya bean shortage, but then you'll have surplus in other markets, but then that surplus is not able to get into Kenya. And so one of the things that we've done is that we've opened a seed center of excellence in Rwanda. We are doing this in partnership with the Rwanda government and a number of other partners whose names escape me right now. And the idea behind that is to train seed propagators, have seed lab where we are propagating seed so that over time, we are able to produce quality seed that can feed the region. And that hopefully will solve for the structural issue that we have with regards to seeds. The second aspect is with regards to policy advocacy work. And one of the interventions that we've done, so SADC actually had a seed harmonization treaty that was agreed to by all SADC members. ESC members have also signed up to this. It hasn't been actualized. And so in collaboration with a number of other partners, One Acre Fund has been working with governments directly to see what we can do to actualize the seed harmonization treaty. What this treaty does basically is to allow for easier movement of seed within our common market. And to harmonize the processes that are required for importation and exportation of seed. And then also interventions to ensure that countries have the enabling policies so that within the country you can have freer movement of seed. So for example, we worked with the government of Burundi to harmonize and to enable imports of seed. I hope that answers the question.
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you also for covering very well the insurance that was brought up by our good Colonel here. I think insurance is critical. Maybe just one or two comments about insurance with in your large scale growers.
Thank you. I agree with you. Insurance is very important, and I remember over lunch I was chatting about the same with a colleague, and the one thing that is true, especially as you talk about staples, is that there is not much innovation in the kind of products that are available. And many times when I speak, especially to the large growers, they seem to believe that the sort of premiums that they are required to pay vis-a-vis what they are likely going to be paid, depending on the product they are talking about, it's almost at par. They almost wish to just ride the risk themselves. They don't have to pay money. And the other thing that is also quite a pain is the arguments when it comes to the payments. I remember a few years ago, one of the large growers launching a case with the Insurance Regulatory Authority for a huge amount of claim where they were getting into serious issues with one of the insurance companies. Having taken a certain cover, then they were unable to get paid for arguments that they thought were very unfair, and the case dragged on in the courts and in the offices of discussion and negotiation for over 10 years. So I think there's still room for a lot of improvements to be made in the space if agric insurance is going to take root amongst most of the staple food producers.
Thank you, Anthony. I don't like the way Jackson is looking at me. In 1 minute, in 1 minute, the parting shot. Parting shot is one sentence. One sentence.
I think for us, I'll speak on behalf of the regulatory agencies, and the parting shot is that you keep us to our toes, especially the private sector. It is you to bring value. If you want value, create that value, give it to us. It is very difficult for someone to perfect themselves. So we look upon you to play that role, challenge us, and from that challenges, we'll be able to give you back value. Thank you.
Thank you. We will do exactly that. Richard?
Yeah, I think I'd say I've been in this industry for 40 years. I've never had a dull day. So looking forward, listening to what I've heard today, with ASNET at the helm, I think horticulture and agriculture can only continue to be a big part of the economy going forward.
Thank you. Michelle?
What I find so exciting about being in this space, as Richard said, is that there's so much innovation. And the agriculture sector is so well organized. You know, we've got our BMOs, we have ASNET, and we are able to find solutions to our problems. The challenges are there, they're huge, and there are more challenges coming. But even looking at the panels that have come before us, really leveraging these spaces that we have, including this summit, and taking the conversations forward, I'm really energized to see what we're able to achieve and how we're able to embrace sustainable agriculture.
Thank you, Michelle. Anthony?
Thank you. I really look forward to tomorrow to hear what the 10 points will be, because the conversations that have come before us since morning means that there is so much that we need to expect to come from this meeting, but I'm sure that ASNET is up to the challenge. Finally, the only thing that I think has not gained much traction, except for the mention that Richard has mentioned about food safety. Market access is important, but I do not think we spend as much time thinking about what we are presenting to the market or what consumers are eventually getting. And I think we need to spend a bit more time talking about that as well.
Thank you, Anthony. And mine is just to ask for a clap for my informed panelists. Thank you very much. Back to you, Jackson.
Thank you so much, Dr. Songa. I think also a clap to you as a moderator, and of course your team members, because of it's really exciting topic, but definitely time is also limited in a way. Now, I was talking to Dr. Bimal and also Agatha to say, from our perspective, what do we do? But I want to ask you, time is also up. We want to do 5 panel discussions. We've done 3. And it's always in my principle to ask, what do you feel? Because when time is up, you are not sure whether you are still with the people fully. And therefore their contribution and their mood can change very quickly. So I also like consulting, but of course we were suggesting something. I've not asked you, I've not given you time to respond, that if we stop there, we can also continue tomorrow. That was our view. And I asked even Dr. Bimal to come and close the thing today. There was still some conversations, but can we do it that way? How can we do it like the parliament, by show of hand to say, yes, tomorrow. Please show me so that you are happy. Very good. There I have it. So thank you so much. I think straight away, because of time, Dr. Bimal will close the day, and then we start off tomorrow.
Thank you very much indeed. My sincere apologies to all the panelists who are meant to be speaking afterwards. I know some of you have come specially to talk, but time defeated us today. My sincere thanks to everybody who participated today. It's been wonderful that you've all stayed till the very end. So you obviously found value in what we're discussing as ASNET. I want to thank, of course, the CS of Agriculture. He came, he contributed, and he participated, which is really wonderful. Government was in the house. I want to thank development agencies all sitting up there for also staying with us till the end. It's been really a productive day, I thought. Really wonderful day. We've met each other, we've made new friends, we've shaken hands with old friends. So I think it's been a very productive day. My only request is tomorrow morning, if we can all start at exactly at 9. If you can come at 8:30, we start at 9. Then the 2 panels, we can quickly catch them up, and then hopefully in the course of the day, we'll make up for the time. But I did think it was unfair for the panelists to rush it this evening. It wasn't fair. We're all a little bit tired. I can appreciate that. So let's give the panelists time tomorrow morning. We start at 9, and we'll hopefully finish on time tomorrow. So I do want to wish you a big thank you, safe return home, and we'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Cup of tea downstairs. Please, Agatha is inviting you for a cup of tea downstairs. I want to thank Agatha. She's been such a wonderful host to all of us, and I think without her we wouldn't have succeeded. So well done, Agatha. Come and have a cup of tea and shake our hands and say hello. Thank you.